in the 50s with Jim Crow and all of that shit still going on before those civil rights bills and stuff was being passed, yo, you didn't have equal housing, yo. It was places you couldn't live at. You were restricted to certain school districts. Now, if you choose to do that, that's fine, right? Not being able to go in stores, right? That you actually had the money to afford being like yo, that you actually saying that black people would like to living like that, like no, and that's why more black people got on what Dr. King and them was saying than what Marcus Garvey and them was saying. You feel me? Marcus Garvey and them was talking some old friend shit, yo. That shit sounds good to some old revolutionary. But for most people, they just want the regular old American shit, yo. You feel me? Most
Absolutely,
black people
absolutely.
Right.
don't want
But
to go back to Africa and struggle. No, they want the comfortability that
They want the
America
white picket
affords.
fence and the apple pie. They want the white picket fence and the apple pie. And the
Yeah,
right,
dog that look
right.
like
we
classic.
want the shit that we work for, not the
But,
shit that
but
we that.
I've,
So y'all got to get that shit out of y'all head
Jeffrey,
to think
Jeffrey,
that y'all grandparents actually, you know what I mean, wanted to take their
Jeffrey.
children back to Africa. No, your grandparents was working in motherfucking steel mills and shit, and they wanted a motherfucking single family home and be able to take care of their kids the
Preach.
same way white people wanted. You know what I mean? We ain't
But how
want to
much
go
of
back
us?
to Africa.
Hold on. But how much
Some
of us got
crazy
the white?
niggas wanted to go back to Africa.
How much of us got the white picket fence and the apple pie and the dog that look like classic? How many of us got that? How many of us got the white picket fence, the apple pie, the chicken in the pot, and the dog that look like classic? How much of us got that? What percentage of
Well,
us got
today the ones that are getting it are the ones that are working for it. So
that? So, you
I
know
have
what?
a
there's your
fence.
That's
answer.
I
why I
have a
said.
fence, and I
No,
have a
that's
fence
still
and a
random,
dog.
bro.
That's what you're saying. That
I
the
have a
reason why black
fence.
people
I
don't
have a
get it.
fence, and I have a
I
dog.
said today, two P's. Now I don't know
So,
about
so,
70s, 80s.
so
So
the ones
how
who
many
don't have
how
the
many manufacturing company we have?
oh,
I don't know.
That's irrelevant.
Manufacturing is not the only industry where you can get a job and do well.
Well,
No,
again,
I'm
though,
talking about
it's not irrelevant in this sense, Chef. It all depends on what your mindset is, right? If your mindset is ownership and autonomy, then the only
CP,
way
where
to
you from?
huh?
Where you from?
Me, where I was born,
Yeah.
I was born in Jamaica.
All right. So when you left Jamaica, why you ain't go to Africa if Marcus Garvey was right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was 14. My mom brought me here, so
You
I
can go
mean,
now, my nigga. You
Chef,
can go
fuck you
now,
for
my
that.
nigga.
Fuck you.
yeah,
Fuck
but
you.
but
Fuck
again,
you.
Chef, listen to what I'm saying. I'm not necessarily agreeing with the whole going to Africa part, right? Because again,
Okay.
remember, whatever it is that you choose to do has got to be practically, something that you could do, in a practical sense, right? I agree with the fundamental idea that, if autonomy and agency is the ultimate goal, then what Garvey is talking about, as far as, a kind of insulation or this kind of galvanizing, even if it's not necessarily pure hardcore separatism, right? The only route to that, right, meaning autonomy and complete agency, is that, right? Now the road that is shorter and more comfortable, absolutely, is the assimilation route, that you're talking about. You know what I'm saying? But if you do that, you're always gonna be
at the bottom.
right. You know what I'm saying? You could chalk out or you could etch out a nice little living for yourself as an individual, but if your aim is to gain power and autonomy, like you will never get it going that route.
Never get it. But
And
but I don't
and I
think they
think that's
want
I
that.
think that's fine though, because for each it comes down to the individual, right? Everybody might not necessarily have the desire to, I want my people to be, to be, to have a complete self-determination and autonomy and all of that.
But the strategy made no sense. because
Yeah,
Garvey and his closest contemporaries could have moved over there for 6 months or 12 months, got some experience, set some infrastructure in place, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and then would have been able to kind of come back and explain the process. You see what I'm saying? That's not the route that is not.
But here's the thing, man. Remember the conversation that we're having, and what Magi asked is, we're looking for, like something nefarious. What you're describing is possibly ineptitude. You know what I'm saying? That's a different thing. I did find some online recommended by the sister Purple Glitter in the chat of a letter that Garvey wrote to a white supremacist named Ernest Servier Cox. Right now, I found a little quote here. I haven't been able to find the actual letter, but let me read this quote real quick. Right, it says, "The fact is, the modern Negro is a lazy, good-for-nothing slumberer. That is my conviction, arrived at by close and careful study and experience. And if something is not done for him, he will die as other unfit races have." That was Garvey's letter to Ernest Cox.
That's powerful right there.
I won't throw that out like
It's real powerful. That shit is powerful as hell. Okay.
No, you gotta throw that out.
What go what else?
Just say, like somebody just say that's Garvey's letter. He said he ain't got no primary. He can't find the primary. And we have to keep in mind, I'm not just blaming everything on white people, but have y'all ever seen anything on how the FBI went to far extents to vilify Marcus Garvey?
That's true.
Have y'all seen any of those specials? Y'all ain't seen none of those?
Yeah, and we've seen it with MLK too, also.
Yeah, and so I'm saying we would have to hear what his partners and contemporaries thought about a letter like that in his time, if they even knew about it. But I would just throw that out if I was just trying to be honest. Like, let's take somebody else besides Marcus Garvey and just say, here go a letter he wrote to somebody, and we don't got a source on it. But
take it with a grain of salt. I've yet to find a primary, so.
I'm not blaming you for not having a primary. I'm just saying things like that coming from the time when they had these COINTELPRO movements is suspicious.
Yeah, so think about it from, all right, so we already dismissed the boys, right? So we're going to dismiss the boys because the boys had the same issues with Booker T. Washington. All right, so he was standing on the other side of the fence completely already. So we can go with A. Philip Randolph, right? Now, if we all familiar with A. Philip Randolph, he was the precursor to the civil rights movement. So if you look at him, by him being in contention with Marcus Garvey program, right? And he would lean more towards Dr. King and them, right?
He was an integrationist.
Yeah, so it would lean more like away from the criminal charges. You dig what I'm saying? Can we start to even look at it like Marcus Garvey was on the wrong side of the fence? Whether he did anything, whether he was a scammer or not, you know what I mean? Like, the civil rights movement benefited us big time. We wasn't all going back to Africa. So that's like a pipe dream. You feel me? So for every African American that lives now, and all of the people, Africans that came from the Caribbean and everywhere else, who all benefited from the opposition of Garvey, whether we like it or not. Whether Garvey should sound better or not, you know what I mean? The actual benefit came from his opposition versus his proponents. What y'all think?
So what you're saying that it was basically two camps at the time. It was two camps at the time: the separatists and the integrationists. Garvey stood on the side of the separatists.
He leaned more towards the separatists, and his meetings with the Ku Klux Klan and letters that speeches that he gave to his own organization about the Ku Klux Klan that we just read. Yeah,
He was
it
a
was linked to that.
separatist.
Yeah.
And Philip Randall was an integrationist. He believed that we can be a part of the greater United States. And Martin
Frederick
Luther King
Douglass,
in his earlier years,
all on board.
Frederick Douglass. Yeah, but so Marcus couldn't have been the only separatist at the time. Weren't there other
No,
guys
but
that
he
were
was the
separatists?
biggest. He was the biggest.
Yeah.
He was
Now,
the
I
biggest.
kinda
But that's not criminal. That's not criminal though. We discussing
No.
the criminal thing. To see
What
if
was
the nigga was a family.
where was Noble Joy Lee at in his stand? Was he more of a separatist? Would you consider him a separatist?